Hey guys, welcome to the fifth and last session of Parenting Wisely. The session today will be communication and values. I am asking you to get a pencil and some paper because we will be doing an activity and then you will be needing to take some notes at the first on what I tell you about how this is going to play out. So I'm going to give you a second to get you a pencil and paper so you'll be ready to go. Okay, first thing I want to say is if you have attended all 5 sessions, you attended the first 2 in-house, and if you have completed the 3 online, then before you can get a certificate, you have to email me your plan of what you are going to do with the skills that we have covered in this class. I am asking you to pick 1 or 2 skills from each session and write about what you will do with those skills when your children come home, or if you have them now with what you have learned in the class. What are you going to do with them? You can type the plan, you can write it, but you have to email it to me, and that is what I will grade. There will not be an exit test because I really don't have a good way to do that. So your plan will take the place of the exit test. So I am asking you to make it good because I want to know that you have gotten something out of this. So make sure that you email the plan to me and you have to the first of next week to get that in because I don't want you to hurry. Get that into me and then tell me how you want to get your certificate. You can either come by here and pick it up after I've graded the plan, or I can email it to you. So tell me which way you want to receive your certificate. That is very important. Okay, now we will be doing an activity during this session, so have your pencil and paper ready for that. All right, here we go. Communication and values. All right. We know that the love of a family is life's greatest blessing. And probably you've had time to realize that during this COVID-19 thing. Being with family, not being able to be with friends, although I know with technology you certainly communicate with them, but not being able to be there with them. You probably spend a lot of time with family, and how wonderful is that? The only thing that I hope and pray, and I really do not believe this about any of my parents in my parenting class, but I do hope and pray that you are not getting tired of your children. I hope you are finding ways to keep them entertained and ways to love them and enjoy being with them because we're spending a lot of time together as a family. So find ways to practice what we learned last week about your anger. Take time out for yourself, but do not take it out on your children, your frustration. Do not let this time be a time where you drink a lot of alcohol, smoke marijuana, or do any kind of drugs, because this is not a time to do those kind of things. And hopefully you won't, because remember what I said, and I stand by this. You cannot be the best parent that you need to be when you're under the influence of a mind-altering drug. And your children deserve better, and hopefully they are getting the best of you. I know it's frustrating. I know we get tired, but find ways. Play a lot of games, play cards, take a lot of walks, take naps, interact with your children, help them with their e-learning, all kinds of ways that you can spend positive time with your children. Take advantage of this and do it because we have a lot of time to do that. And I know you will. I have faith in all you guys, so I know you will. So we know that the love of a family is life's greatest blessing. All right, I want to share with you some mistakes that parents make. And I want you to ask yourself, just ask yourself, do you make any of these? Are you guilty of this? If we fail to establish a strong emotional bond by not giving our children the necessary time and attention they need, boy, you have plenty of time to give them the attention they need now. If you do not read to them, talk to them, play with them, especially young children, to provide the necessary experiences that they need in life. And when they say, Mommy or Daddy, will you play with me? They really, you know what they're doing. They want your attention. They want you to spend time with them. And it's a great way to show I love you and I care about you. When you don't have firm rules and routines in your home that you administer calmly, fairly, assertively, and without guilt or hesitation, you are doing wrong by your children. In the third session, if you remember that, we spent all the session on positive discipline, how to discipline your children, how to have good rules, how to follow through, and how to dish out consequences if that is necessary. A lot of times, if you remember your follow through, you don't have to have a consequence if we follow through to make sure they are obeying our rules. When you do not convey to your child through your actions and words the moral and ethical values that you believe in. And if you're not sure about values, I'm going to talk about those today. Never, ever, ever yell at, cuss at, or threaten your children. When you expect too much, but demand too little. You cannot expect your children to make all A's in school and not make time for them to do their homework, not make them study, not make them read, not make them do all those kind of things. If you allow them to play video games all day, then you cannot expect them to win honors in school. So get them off of that technology is what I suggest to all parents. Get them outside, walk, play in the yard, do something to involve your children so they don't spend all their time on the technology. Do not overexpose them to the media. Also, don't let them watch TV too much. Don't let them watch movies that have a lot of violence and those kind of things. Teach your children to sit quietly. How important is that? Sometimes it's good, especially now, especially if you have younger children who talk all the time, teaching them to sit quietly by playing the quiet game. All right, everybody, we're going to sit still for 5 minutes and nobody can say a word. A good way to teach how to sit still. When we teach them how to sit still, they learn to concentrate and listen. And those are pretty important skills. So direct and complete communication should be a constant and characteristic of your child's life. So I want to give you some tips for good, clear communication with your children. Be sure and make sure you take an interest in your child's activities, what they like to do. Ask them about them, take an interest in them, and be willing to talk about them. Ask them what's happening in their life. Remember, I have told you, their little world to them is as big as yours is to you. I know they don't have a big old world, especially the younger they are, but listen to them and let them tell you. Ask them. I mean, my dad used to say to me, I'd give you a penny for your thoughts, just to get me to talk, to tell him things. Ask them why they think the sky's blue, why they think the grass is green, why they think this or why they think that. Those kind of things, you learn a lot about your kids from things like that. Tell them you love them. If you say I love you 1,000 times a day, it will never be too much. You might could have 1,000 times a day at home with them all the time, but I know we don't do that, and I know that's not realistic, but tell them you love them a lot. It's very important. Say I love you. I know we do things to show it, but tell them I love you. I love you. Find ways to tell them that you love them. I know with my daughter, when she was growing up, we used to play this little game. I love you this much. And we'd raise our hands all the way up to the sky and back, or we'd say, I love you to the moon and back. I love you, love you, love you. And those are memories that you're putting in your child's memory bank that when they become adults, they'll remember and do the same thing with their kids. And that's very important. Be prepared to talk when your child is ready to listen. Or when they ask you a question, stop what you're doing and try to answer their questions. Use open-ended questions instead of direct questions. What I mean by that is, instead of saying, like when they go to school, what did you do at school today? Say, tell me how you think that Ms. Smith liked your project. Or who did you play? What did you play on the playground today? Or what did so-and-so have to say about your new shirt you wore? Or just ask them questions, open-ended, where they can answer your questions. And then think about communication with your kids in a different way. Sometimes happy faces. Oh, put on a happy face. Sometimes when you don't even feel like putting on a happy face, put it on for your baby. When you pick them up, smile at them. When you're changing their diaper, a big old fat smile. It makes so much difference in their little world and their little life because they want you to be happy. Do a high five with your kids when they do something good. Give them a high five. Write them notes. Oh, kids love to get notes. I used to post little sticky notes on my daughter's mirrors in her bedroom, in the bathroom, just little notes saying, I love you. Hope you have a great day. Be sure to brush your teeth. All kinds of things like that. Just little notes. They love little notes. Send them a letter in the mail. They don't get any mail. That would be a good way. Taped messages are good. Email, text to your children. But the important thing in communication is to listen, always listen. Think about this. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. This is how you learn about your children, by listening to what they say. Listen, listen, listen. Those are so important in communication. Teach your child to listen, or teach your children to listen. And the way you do that is by speaking in a quiet voice. Don't holler or don't be loud all the time. I'm loud, and sometimes it's hard for me to speak in a soft voice. But if you want your children to listen, speak in a soft voice, and they have to come in close to hear what you're saying. Look your child in the eyes. We all like eye contact. When you look at your child, so even if you have to bring them up to meet your eyes, or you have to get down to meet their eyes, eye contact is really important in good communication. Praise your children with exciting words. That is so good. I love that one. Awesome. You're an awesome child. It was a great job you did. Thank you. You are such a smart child. Praise them with awesome words when they deserve it. I don't believe in fake praise, but when they deserve it, praise them with awesome words. But always give them full attention when you're in a conversation with your children, because if you don't, they get the message that you really aren't listening and you really don't want to hear. How do they get that message? Well, if we're on our phone, or if we're looking at our phones, or if we're trying to do something else while they're talking to us, they get a message really quick. She's not listening to me, or he doesn't care what I have to say. And from that, they learn not to talk to us. So we don't want to be guilty of that. Why is it important to talk to your kids? Well, they learn by listening to you. What do you talk about with your kids? Well, you can talk about school, their hobbies, what they're interested in, their schoolwork, talk about family, TV shows, sports, and talk about family values. And we're going to spend some time on that in just a minute. Where is the best place to talk to your kids? Well, anywhere you can get their attention. Bedtime is a great time. When you tuck them in bed, everything's kind of slowed down. It's really quiet. That's a great time to just sit on the bed and talk with them if they want to talk. When you got them in the car, going somewhere, you have a captive audience. Turn the radio off, make them pull their earplugs out, and talk about things. When is the best time to do it? Well, there is no best time. All times are best times. It's never too early or never too late when you can give your child your full attention. Family meetings are a wonderful way to talk to your children. Just pick a time to have a family meeting, and it's so simple. Just sit your whole family down around the table is a good way, or in the great room, everybody sitting around with all the technology off, and just talk about things that are important to our family, things that everybody is going to be interested in. Family meetings are a great time to talk about things within the family, to divvy up chores, to talk about important issues that we have in our family. But I think we want to center for just a minute on parents, are you really listening? And we need to look at the skills of how to listen. Well, you got to make the time. You can't listen if you're doing 10 other things. No distractions. Be attentive to what your child is saying. Ask questions. Ask questions. Did you know that the only way you will ever know what's going on up here in your child's mind is by asking questions? Be an active listener. By that, I mean when your child is talking, lean in. Really? I don't believe it. Oh, things like that to let them know that you are listening. Look them in the eye, make good eye contact. Those are so important listening skills. I'm going to go over them again because I want you to remember these. Make the time, no distractions, be attentive to what they're saying, ask questions, be an active listener, lean in so they know you're listening to them, look them in the eye. Show respect to your children, just like when you're talking with your friend or your spouse or your parents or somebody, and you're really listening to what they have to say. Your children, no different with your children. Just listen the same way. Listening skills are good skills with anybody that we communicate with. So when you're talking with your child, get close to them. It's kind of hard to have a conversation with a child all the way across the room. Call them by their name. Everybody likes to be called by their name. I love it when people refer to me, Lynn. I like that. And if you noticed, and maybe I wasn't that good at it by the second class when you were here, but I like to call my parents by their names. Get good eye contact with somebody when you're talking to them. And when you're talking with your kids, especially when you're telling them to do something, giving them a command or expecting them to follow a rule, use a firm voice. Never yell and never scream, but you have a firm voice, which is your authoritative voice. I remember my mom used to say to me when I was growing up, and I knew she meant business when she would look at me and point her finger and say, Martha Lynn, calling me by my name, pointing her finger. I knew she meant business for me to do something. And then state your command of what you want your children to do. Make sure it's clear. Remember last week we talked about clear rules so your children understand what they have to do. State your simple, clear command like, put the toys up and let's get ready for bed. Maybe you've been having fun with them, playing with them, and y'all just been talking and having a good time. But now you're going to give them a command, so you use a firm voice. Kaylee, put the toys up and let's get ready for bed. That lets your child know you mean business. You may need to point your finger or whatever your way of showing your authoritative voice is. And then to make that work, follow through and make sure they do that. The younger the child, you might have to help them pick up the toys and then march them into the bathroom to get their bath or brush their teeth or whatever they have to do to get ready for bed. But those things are very, very important, and your follow through is what's going to make it happen. Some of the ways that you can communicate at home, and I love these, you can share a memory. Oh, my granddaughter, who is 10 years old, she will ask me all the time, Nana, tell me a memory about my mom. So she loves me to tell her things about her mom when she was growing up. Play Remember When. Look at family photos and pictures because they can remind you of many special times that you've had on vacation, or maybe you took their picture at school or something like that. Take a walk and talk to your child about what you see. Talk about things that are growing. Talk about bugs that you see. Talk about all kinds of things as you take a walk. If you really look, you'll see some pretty interesting things. Have a family bulletin board. Maybe you have it on your refrigerator. I always had my family bulletin board on the refrigerator because everybody went to the refrigerator often. Um, have it in your kitchen, in your family room, in the hallway where you display achievements and talents, messages, snapshots, all kinds of things that go on with your child, and they will love it. TV families, watch a TV game together, a TV show together, of a family, something fun and interesting, and then talk about what you saw. Have you and me time. Make an appointment with your child for a certain time and use that time to really listen. I highly suggest this to fathers who have daughters. Take your daughter on a date when we can get out again, of course, but take them out to eat, take them to a movie, take them to the park, do something special just with your daughter. Because remember this, when your daughter is old enough and picks a mate, she's going to look for somebody like her dad. And if you're a great dad, and I know every one of you are, then you'll be proud if she picks someone like you. It'll be an honor to you. Play the last 15 minutes of the day where before your child goes to bed, talk about the day, talk about what happened today, and laugh about it and have fun. Those are some good communication skills that you can use with your children where you are today. But the important thing is listen to your children, talk to them when they want to talk, engage yourself with your children and enjoy them. Enjoy your children because you don't see this now, but your time with them is fleeting. They're up and gone before you even know it. And then, if you didn't do it now, you might wish that you had done some of the things you didn't do. So don't have regrets. Do it and do it now. Spend time with these wonderful, wonderful gifts that God has given to you. All right, let's take the last of our session and talk about family values. Positive values build strong families. The values that we have in our home, the values that we teach our children, the values that we live by, if they are positive, will build strong families. And we want strong families, don't we? All right. This is where you might want to write something down. I'm going to give you 5 values that you should teach your children by the time they're 5 years old. Number 1, honesty. Better have that as a value for yourself before you can teach it to your children. Justice. Justice is fairness. Justice is equalness. Everybody's the same, and we realize that. Determination. Determination is very important. When they start something, make them be determined to complete it. Don't let them quit. Consideration is very important. Considerate of other people's feelings, other people's time, other people's things, and then love. So honesty, justice, determination, consideration, and love are 5 values that your children should know by the time they're 5 years old and should be practicing. And how do they learn those? Through you and what you do. If you show love, they learn to love. All right, let's talk about our values for a minute. Now, I'm not here to tell you what your values should be, because values aren't written in stone, and everyone, according to culture, according to the way you're raised, have different values in life. Your values tell others what is important to you. Your values are something that you will keep even when caught in a difficult situation. Your values are learned from your family, from the people around you, and from your culture. And most of the time, we practice the values of the culture or the family that we grew up in. But, like I said, they're not written in stone. And when you become an adult, you can change those values. Maybe you might marry somebody or have a relationship with somebody that doesn't have all the same values that you have. And it's okay to take on some of theirs and let some of yours go, or bring them into some of yours and let some of theirs go. Values are not etched in stone, but they are important in your life. They tell other people what's important to you, and they'll help you make decisions. They'll guide your decision making. They are the internal compasses that guide you in making your choices. That guide you in making your choices. I was just reminded of that just yesterday. I started a new company picking up my trash, and they pick it up once a week. And when I started with them, I called and told them I wanted to get on their customer list and I wanted my trash picked up. And they got all the information and told me that it would be picked up once a week. And I agreed with all of that. And they told me to have the can rolled out to the curb and all of that. Well, and they told me how you would pay. Well, that has been 3 months, and I have never received a bill from them. And I've been concerned about that, and I've waited. I thought, well, maybe you pay at the end of the 3 months. I knew you paid quarterly. Maybe you pay at the end of the 3 months and you get your bill, but I haven't gotten one and the 3 months is up. So I've been thinking about that and thinking about it, and I thought, I got to call them and find out what's going on here. Now, if I didn't have a value of being honest, I might just rock on and never call them. And then they never send me a bill. That's wrong. And that is not in my character to do that. So calling them, yes, is the right answer and something that I will do. Because that is my internal compass that knows, hey, I haven't gotten a bill from them. I need to get in touch with them and find out why. Our values reflect who we are and our own unique heritage. And some of us have unique heritage. Some of us are different from others in our culture and our experiences in life, and we have a unique heritage. And if it is, then you need to teach that to your children, especially if you're proud of that. They're a part of our experiences that affect our behavior. And that's where I was talking to you about paying for my trash pickup. That affect your behavior. I know that it isn't right. So I knew that I had to do something about that. Somebody dropped the ball somewhere. It was dropped in my favor so far, but I've got to correct that, and I've got to make sure that that bill is paid and that it gets to me. People do not suddenly become honest and responsible when they get to be adults. No, it's a practice that we do all through our life, that you teach your children as you raise them by teaching it to them and modeling it. They learn by words and actions. Remember that. The development of values is a long process that entails many interactions between children and adults. Many of our family ideals, beliefs, behaviors, or values are merely habits of thinking and behaving. And when it becomes a habit and we just act that way all the time, then our children pick up on that and they learn it very quick. We have to be careful what we think, say, and do because it becomes who we are. Now think about that a minute. Be careful what you think, say, or do because it becomes who you are. It becomes your character, becomes your destiny, what you attract to yourself, and what you believe about life. Those are called values. A good value that I think most everyone should have in their home or in their life, and I will want to share that so you have a real good understanding of values, is respect. And I don't believe there would be anyone watching this video that would not tell me they want their children to respect them. They want them to respect other people, but they learn by whether we respect other people or not, and whether we show respect for them and whether we show respect for each other. Respect is a quality that helps people feel good about themselves and other people. Some respect dues that you would practice for it to become a value. Always be courteous and polite. Respect the independence and the individuality of other people. Be tolerant, appreciative, and accepting of differences. And get to know people for who they are. If we live our life like that, boy, we're modeling something great for our children. Now, disrespect is a whole different ballgame, so let's look at that. Disrespect can lead to destructive behavior. And if you're a disrespectful adult and your children are watching you, then destructive behavior can be in your pattern of life for them and for yourself. Some respect don'ts, which would be disrespect, are don't insult, abuse, put down, or harass other people. Don't use, manipulate, exploit, or take advantage of other people. Do not make inappropriate or unwanted comments about others. That's a really good one to think about, because if you're always commenting about someone, your children pick up on that and they will practice the same things, and they might embarrass you. For instance, if you talk about someone, oh, she's lazy, or oh, she's fat, or she's so and so. Don't make inappropriate or unwanted comments about others. And don't mistreat people because they're different. We live in a very different society today, and we have a lot of different kinds of people living in our society. So we have to learn to be accept those differences in other people, because everyone is not like us. Their culture can be very different. Okay, another one that I think is important, and I think that should be one that we have in our life, and definitely that you teach your children: responsibility. Being responsible is a very important characteristic. Some responsibility do's would be accountable, accept responsibility, think before you act, consider the consequences, be reliable, and always model responsible behavior to your children. Be accountable. Be responsible enough to be accountable for all of your actions. Everything you do, be accountable for it. Do your best and be proud of everything you do. Wow, isn't that amazing? Can we do that? Be proud of everything we do? Well, we certainly should try, because our children are watching us, and we want them to be proud of us, and we want to teach them to be proud of themselves. Irresponsible behavior, people don't like that. It's very hard to tolerate. We don't like people that are irresponsible. But your children learn that if you practice irresponsibility, they learn that. And that isn't a value that you want them to have for themselves. Some don'ts on that would be: don't blame anyone else for your mistakes or shortcomings. Own up to your own mistakes and your own shortcomings. Never take credit for someone else's work or accomplishments. Never give up or leave tasks undone. Wow, how important is that? Finish what you start, because your children are watching you. If you do it, they will learn to do that. Don't give less than 100% of anything you do. Wow, think about that, and think about what you do. Do you give 100%? Do you do it 100%? Okay. We know that positive values build strong families. So where'd you get your values? Think about that. I can't see you to ask you. I always go around and ask each one in my class, where did you get your values? So I'll tell you where I got mine. I got my values from my mom and my dad. I learned the values of our life from living with them for 21 years. So that's where I got my values, from both of them. Okay, we're going to do an activity, and I want you to write this activity out. This is very important. I'm going to go slow, and I want to make sure you get it, because this is how you teach your values to your children. Okay. With your values, there is a belief. For every value you have, there is a belief about that value. Okay, so when you have a belief, you take a position. I believe this, so I take a position. A position is a strong point of view. It is something you live for and you live by. It's kind of like the way you think things should be and why they should be that way. That's a belief. So you have a belief in your values. And for every belief that you have a standard for that belief in raising your children. And your standard would be your expectations, things that are consistent with your beliefs. And I'm going to show you how that works in a minute, but I want you to think about things. You have beliefs, what you believe about right and wrong. That is your value system. What do I believe about right and wrong? Okay, so when I know what my belief is, then I have a standard for that belief, which is my expectations from my children. I believe, and I'm just going to give you an example here, I believe it's wrong to steal. Honesty is a value. I believe it's wrong to take something that doesn't belong to me, stealing. Okay, so if I believe that, Then I have a standard for that with my kids, which would be my expectations that they not take anything that doesn't belong to them. And these things are consistent with my beliefs because I try to make sure that my children do not. So I have a belief, I have a standard, and then I have a behavior expectation of my children. And my behavior expectation is my rules. Maybe you need to have a rule in your home about honesty. Never take anything that doesn't belong to you. My guidelines for my beliefs and my standards and my expectations and things that I expect to be done. Don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. And I expect you not to do that. And if you do, there's going to be a follow through and a consequence on it. Doesn't mean just because it's a value that I have that my children never will not take anything that doesn't belong to them. But if they do, because we have a rule about that, then we're going to work through it so they learn that they can't take something that doesn't belong to them. And then you have a consequence. There are consequences for everything. There are good consequences and bad consequences. Consequences are results from actions. If you have a value and a rule about not taking something that doesn't belong to you, then there is a result from that action if they do. That would be a consequence. Consequences can be rewards. We can reward our children for doing the right things. It's outcomes. It's ramifications. It's things that happen as a result of actions. Okay, so we know now that our family position is our beliefs, our standards for that belief, our behavior expectations of our child, and then the consequences that we have for the expectations. All right, so how do we make a family position work? Well, number one, and this is where you teach your values to your children. We clarify the position. Why do we believe that? Why is that a value in our home? Your children need to know that. A lot of people grow up never understanding why was that a value in our home? Why was that important? They need to know why things are important. We always support it by our standard, and our standard is what our expectations of our children, our behavior expectations. We demonstrate it by the behavior expectations we have for our children. And then we define consequences for living up to or not living up to our family position. So you want to make sure your position is clear. You want to support that position with your standard, which is your behavior expectation of your children, living up to or not living up to your family belief. All right, we're gonna do an activity here with our belief, our standard, our behavior expectation, and our consequence. I'm gonna share one with you, and then I want you to do one, and I want you to send that to me as your assignment for this session. Okay? All right. So I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. All right. I grew up in a home where education was a strong value in our home. We were taught that you need to have the best education that you can. Okay. So my belief was, the belief in my home growing up, and I used the same one in my home when I was raising my daughter. A good education is very good to have, and it's very important. The standard for that belief in my home growing up and with my child was I was required or expected to make at least a B average in school to be able to get a good education. And I had an expectation of that with my own daughter. The behavior expectation, that was the standard. So my belief was education, a good education. My standard for that was have at least a B in school. My behavior expectation was of my child, and as well as of me growing up, do your homework every day, ask for help when you need it, and go to school every day. You can't get a good education if you don't go to school. And that's very important because some parents, that's not important that they go to school. So you got to go to school every day, you got to do your homework, and you need to ask for help when you don't understand something. Then a consequence would be their logical and real consequences. A logical consequence would be when you fail, then we're going to do something in the home, take something away from you, or not allow you to do something. But a natural consequence would be you fail in school and you don't do well. So there are natural and logical consequences for failure. Okay, so I want to hold that up and I want you to look at it for a few minutes, and then I want you to pick one. Do not pick education because I'm using this one, but I want you to pick one and I want you to do it. You don't have to do it while we're on the screen, but I want you to know what you're supposed to do. I want you to do one, tell me what the value is, and then do it through this example. So I'm going to let you see this. Okay, so you've got your belief, your standard, your behavior expectation, and a consequence. All right, so what I'm asking you to do is pick one of your values that you have in your home for your children and write it out like that. What you're doing is you're learning how to teach your values to your children. And a lot of it's words, but a lot of it's expectations, behavior expectations, beliefs, standards, behavior expectations, and consequences. Now, the belief has to come from you because remember, your children are going to take on your values while they're growing up, okay? Because that's what's taught in the home. Okay, so whatever your belief is, and pick one of your values, then what is your standard for that? What is my standard? And then my behavior expectation of my children from my standard, and then what is the consequence for not living up to the behavior expectation. So do that 4 things there I want you to do and send that to me, as well as sending your plan. Remember that you have to send in your plan also. All right, value each moment that you have in life, and I want to share some with you that are good to remember. To realize the value of a year, ask a student who's failed a final exam. To realize the value of a month, ask a mother who's given birth to a premature baby. To realize the value of a week, ask the editor of a weekly newspaper. To realize the value of an hour, ask the lovers who are waiting to meet. To realize the value of a minute, ask the person who has missed the train, bus, or plane. To realize the value of a second, ask the person who has survived an accident. To realize the value of a millisecond, ask the person who's won a medal in the Olympics. That's just some things for thought about values. Values are very important in your life, and you have to have values to raise your children with. I guess the thing I want you to remember and think about is your values are what you believe about right and wrong in life, and what you teach your children about that. And remember this, if you aren't sure what your values is, take a minute and write them down. Write down what your values are. Just think about that and just write down what are my values? What is it that I believe about life? What is it that is important to me? And then you can prioritize them. You can, according to what your value system really is. My value system, I would tell you, is God first, family second, behavior expectations are very important. And then I could go on and on and on, but I don't want you listening to my value system. I want you to have and understand and know what your own value system is, because I will tell you, parents, without values in your life, what are you going to teach your children? What are they going to grow up to believe about right and wrong in their life? So values are very, very important. So take the time to take and do that exercise. And I thank you for taking the time to do that. All right. Now I want to spend the next few minutes on going over what we've learned in this class. before I do that, I want to share with you, if you have not done all 5 of the classes, then you need to make up one that you missed. You will have an opportunity to do that, and hopefully you can do that in-house. I am planning to start back another 5-week Parenting Wisely series on May the 5th. That's on Tuesday night, May the 5th. So when the classes will always be from 6 o'clock to 8. If the president, and I hope today that they're going to let up on this staying in all the time, and we're going to be able to have those classes starting May the 5th. You will have an opportunity to make up your class. It is your responsibility to call me at the end of April and find out if we are going to have the classes, and then I will give you your makeup date. Like if you miss the 3rd session, then you will come on the 3rd session and take the class. If you miss the 1st session, then you will do that one. But anyway, that's the way we're going to make these classes up. But it is your responsibility to call me, and please don't do it till toward the end of April, because I won't know. I may have to reschedule that. I may not be able to have it on May the 5th. It may be a little bit later, depending when he opens up this country. So I'm looking forward to and hoping it's by the end of April. So that's what we will do there. Okay, so let's review what we've had in these 5 classes. All right. We talked about the parent as the role model in the first session, and that's very, very important. You are the role model. You are your child's biggest influence in your child's life. You're the biggest influence in your child's life. Make sure it's a good influence. Think about the influence of your own parent. Was it a good one? And if it wasn't, then want to change that and want to be the best role model that you can be for your children. We talked about in the 2nd session the importance of taking your child to the doctor, the importance of providing a safe environment for your child to live in. We looked at how secondhand smoke affects your children. We talked about how your own habits, such as alcohol, drug, guns, affect your parenting, and believe me, they do. We looked at understanding the importance of rules, follow through, and being consistent. Oh, that's an important one. Remember what consistency is, doing the same thing over and over all the time. You are the parent. Rules are a must in your home. Routines are very important. Structure in the home with your children is very important. This is the way they learn. You must be consistent in your discipline. We spent a lot of time on that, so remember that and think about it. Yelling and screaming does not work. A wall goes up when you yell and scream at your children, and they do not hear you. So please do not do that. That is something that you do not want to have in your home. Talked about last week, anger is destructive. How you express and control your anger in dealing with your children will play a big part in their life as to whether they become an angry teenager or grow up to be an angry adult. And we don't want that. So we have to look at our own anger issues, and we have to really know how to control our anger in dealing with our kids and then express it. Communication is a must for parent and child relationships. You've got to have good communication with your children. It's very important for you to talk to your children, to communicate with them. How do they know what they're supposed to do if we don't communicate and tell them and talk to them about our expectations? How are they ever going to learn values if you don't talk about them and model them? We got to talk about it. We got to teach it. We can't assume that because we don't steal, that our children are going to never steal. You got to talk about why that's an important value in our homes and why we live the way we do, why our family is the way it is. And we don't always have to be like every other family, but our children need to know why we are what we are. Talk to your children, communicate with them, because you are building a bridge where when they get to be teenagers, they'll want to talk to you. If you aren't listening to them now, and you don't spend time talking to them, then they're not going to talk to you when they become teenagers. Oh, they'll talk to somebody, but it won't be you. And that'll make you very sad. You won't like that as a parent. So prepare your children by communicating with them and sharing with them and talking with them about things that are important in your life. Give them your value system and make sure it's a good one. And teach your children your values and help them grow up with strong values, because strong, positive values build strong families. And that's what we need in this world today, are strong, strong families, committed, strong families. We know that values are important. Live by your values. What you believe about right and wrong, what you believe about life, live by it. Very, very important. I can't tell you that enough. Teach them to your children. Remember how I told you you teach them? By modeling it and by words and action. I think this is important. I want to share this with you. It's worth remembering. They are not ours to keep, and I'm talking about your children. They are not ours to keep, but to teach how to soar on their own. I'm going to say that again. They're not ours to keep, but to teach how to soar on their own. And that is an 18, 19, 20-year job, depending on how long your child lives in your home. But they're not ours to keep. We spend our life, our job as a parent is to raise them up and move them out so they can live as adults on their own and live a very productive, successful life. And that, my friend, is very important. I can't express that enough. This has been a different situation in this parenting class: 2 in-house parenting classes, and 3 online. The ones online have not been 2 hours because I haven't had interaction with you guys, and so it hasn't been. I miss that. I have the compassion for listening to what you have to say about things, and I always feel that I can help you understand better when I'm looking at you in your eyes and talking directly to you, and you knowing my heart for parenting. And I have a heart for my parents that come through my classes to leave with a desire and a commitment to be the best parent they can be to their children. So regardless of what your situation is, maybe your children are out of the home, maybe they are not, but whatever your situation is, take the skills that we have covered in this class, and I will assure you they will make a huge difference in your parenting with your children. Thank you guys for being in my class, and I'm going to remind you one more time of what you need to do. First of all, do the activity and send that to me using one of the values you have in your home: the belief, the standard, the behavior expectation, and the consequence for that belief. Send that to me, email that back to me. Then email me your plan. Your plan is not what you've learned, but what you're going to do with what you've learned. Pick one skill from each session and tell me what you're going to do with that skill. It's got to be at least a page. Would like it to be more, but at least a page. This is for your test and your plan, because we're not doing an exit test over online. So make sure you get that into me. You have next week to get that in. And then when I have received that and graded it, then you tell me how you want to receive your certificate. You can go ahead and tell me now whether you want it mailed to you or whether you want to come by here and pick it up. And then I will notify you when it's ready or email it to you when I have completed everything that you've turned in. Thank you guys for being in my class. One other thing that I have to say to you, there are a couple of people in this class who have not paid all of the fee. They still owe some. You will not get your certificate until that fee is paid. So you need to call me and you need to find out how you can get that paid. There are only a couple who have not completed all the payment, but that does have to be done before you can receive a certificate that you have completed the class. Thank you for your patience, and I know this has not been an easy class to do, but I thank you for your patience. I thank you for being in my class, and I just want to say to you, be the best mother, the best father you can be to your children. They deserve it, they need it, and they want it. Thank you, thank you, thank you again. Okay, Marty, I'm finished. Cut that one down to 55 minutes.
Yeah. That's still recording. Sheila can edit it though.